I'm going to try to make this quick because I'm very bad at recording myself, as you will probably be able to tell, if not now, through everything. But yeah, so this video is basically a criticism of Permission to Dance by BTS. Now, where does this come from? Because I've never posted a video and I don't plan on doing so again. I wasn't planning on doing this one, but I have feelings. So I was watching D'Angelo's criticism of this, which has gotten a bunch of criticism, and then I watched Elliot Sang, or Baby Gang, live reaction to it. And I am just mad about a lot of things. So a bit of an introduction about me, so you see where I'm coming from. I am Colombian. I'm also Army. I have been Army for more than a year, I guess. And when I say I'm Army, I'm like in it. Obviously, I haven't been in it as long as a lot of people have. But like, BTS is really important to me in many ways, and they've pulled me out of some pretty deep holes in my life, so I love them. The picture that you see here it was just the one HD picture that I had lying around, and you see it's Yoongi. I am not posing, I suppose. D'Angelo's criticism of the song I found like quite accurate in a lot of ways. His criticism is the production is shit, the lyrics are shallow, and the video is kind of sus. So let's go one by one and what Elliot's response to those were. So D'Angelo says that the production felt kind of like flattening of their voices. So there's a lot of auto-tune and the voices just sound kind of bad and like just unprofessionally produced, and just kind of that they all sound like the same person. Now, could he have said that in a better way? Could he have not questioned BTS's production team professionality or whatever? Sure. And that was kind of one of Elliot's points. Another point Elliot made was that he shouldn't be criticizing the production because he obviously doesn't know what he's talking about because he's not a musician, or he's not like well versed in it. Like, I'm sorry, Elliot, but that's bullshit. That is just bullshit. We're all listening to music all the time, even if we don't know the terms for the stuff that we're hearing. We can see whether it sounds good or not. That's just because I can't say exactly what the effect that was put on their voices is doesn't mean I can't really hear that it sounds bad. And it does sound bad. To me, yes, that is my opinion, but I'm not the only one sharing that opinion, and I don't think that obviously it's subjective, but I don't think it's unwarranted. Yoongi's verse was auto-tuned, or the effect on it was so intense that it was just kind of hard to like say it was Yoongi, and I found that with all of them. Really, again, I'm not a music producer, so according to Elliot, I shouldn't be saying anything. But here's the thing. So, yes, there was autotune, there was pitch correction, and I know that that happens in every single song ever. And even autotune has been used by BTS sometimes very well and like in a very artistic and interesting way, such as like Black Swan, for example. I really liked how it was used there. Or sometimes it's not as good, but like to my tastes, like Telepathy and Respect, I didn't enjoy those as much. But this one, it's not even that. Like, there's something wrong with it. There's something wrong with what's happening there. I don't know what it is, but it sounds distorted to me. It sounds like I am listening to it through bad headphones, like broken headphones, and I'm not. Like, I've changed my headphones several times. I've listened to it in several devices. Like, it's not a technical thing on my side. It's literally how the song sounds. So all of their voices blend together into one single kind of voice, and Elliot says that D'Angelo's saying this because he doesn't know their voices in the first place. Well, let me tell you, I know their voices. I have trained myself a lot to know exactly who's singing all the time, and I know exactly who's singing. But with this song, I had to like really pay attention, and like it shouldn't be that hard for someone like me. Like, I usually can tell in like a microsecond who it is, and here I was like, wait, who is that? So that's what the production is doing to their voices. That's what the production is doing here, and I just don't find that compelling. I don't think that was a good creative choice. Again, that is a subjective opinion, but here's one of my issues with the whole thing is that, of course, all opinions are subjective, but that doesn't mean that you can't evaluate art and that you can't have like legitimate reasons not to like something. So yeah, okay, there's that. And just like there's so many like literal choices that individually wouldn't be bad, right? So like that, the effect that the voice had, the fact that it's so like over the top, auto-tuned, like all of that is not inherently bad. Like songs can be good and have that. It's just like the combination of all of it that just feels like this whole thing is just not creative. And I'm sorry, like I love BTS, I love them enormously. And I know that they are talented and I know that they can do really good music. I just don't think this is one of their best. And I think they could have done a lot better. So now the lyrics, I agree with D'Angelo that they're shallow. It doesn't mean that I think that the na 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 portion was the shallow bit, because no, it's not. That's just that. Yeah, I agree with. I guess Elliot made fun of that a lot, but like, yeah, the na 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 section is not the issue with the lyrics. I don't have the time or the disposition to really put in the clips of the stuff that I mean, but I am going to say it anyway. There's several points in the delivery of the lyrics that has nothing to do with pronunciation as such, and it has to do with rhythm. So there are several points during the song where it feels like the syllables don't fit the rhythm, but it just sounds very awkward. And this is not something that happens just once, but several times. Like I can think of like one Permission where it sounded like it shouldn't be as many syllables as it was. And that's just songwriting. That's not like, that's Ed Sheeran's work in this song, not BTS's. But I just didn't think that was well done. So I'm not sure if that classifies as like lyric criticism.
It's the thought of PM when your heart's just like a drum, beating louder with nowhere to guard it. When it all seems like it's wrong, just sing along to Elton John and to that feeling we're just getting started.
When the nights get colder and the rhythm's got you falling behind, just dream about that moment when you look yourself right in the eye. Then you say, I wanna dance, the music's got me going.
I also thought that even the message, how it was conveyed, like in most BTS songs, or like most BTS songs that have like a message, I suppose, because I'm not criticizing like Dynamite or Butter, like they are what they are. But like when they have like a deep message, BTS kind of does this thing of like having several lyrics explaining the same point in like novel ways. And I know that that's their writing style and not necessarily Ed Sheeran's, but this song doesn't feel like they're trying, like there's like the message was intended to be delivered in any sort of creative way at all. It's like it's very much in your face. It's just like, yeah, just if you're sad, just look forward to that moment where you're not sad anymore. And it's just, I expect more from them. And to be honest, I at some point expected more from Ed Sheeran. I was very much an Ed Sheeran fan at some point. And I just feel like at some point he just stopped making really deep lyrics, and this, for me, is part of that. Like there's no like play on words. There's nothing particularly creative about it. So yeah, the message is there, but it doesn't really resonate with me in any way. Not because I haven't had bad times, or anything like that. It's just because it's too simple. It's just like, hey, you're depressed. Don't be. Think about the future. Okay. I don't see how that's helpful, but thanks. It just, yeah, that's kind of my issue with the lyrics. And another thing that was criticized by Elliot, and this is not a criticism of the song, to be honest, but okay, so D'Angelo says that it sounds like they're speaking Spanish at the beginning. And Elliot, and a lot of people actually, interpret this as an insult to their pronunciation. Here, I'm Colombian. Spanish is my native language. That sounded like Spanish. It really did. It took me a good few seconds into the song to be like, what language am I listening to, right? I found that quite funny, actually. I don't think that's necessarily criticism at all. I don't know, it made me think of all of the like misheard lyrics and like, I don't know, I Want to Break Free by Queen being like hay agua en el refri, which if you don't speak Spanish doesn't make sense to you, but like in Spanish it's really funny. This isn't even like a criticism to me. I have misheard lyrics in everywhere because English is not my native language, and like I often find it hard to like understand what English lyrics are saying, even though I'm pretty fluent. Like that just happens. That being said, and I will touch on the pronunciation here, because when I heard Dynamite, I really enjoy Dynamite. I think it's a fun little song, but like you could tell that it was being sung by people who were not native English speakers, and that's not a diss, that's not a criticism, it's just a fact. And a lot of people record songs in languages they don't speak, and it sounds like they have an accent, and that's not bad. And in Butter, I felt like they had done like so much progress in that area, like linguistically. I don't mean musically. Yeah, I'm a linguist. Like that's what I pay attention to. But like a lot of sounds that are really difficult to make in English, they were just excelling at. I just found that Butter sounded a lot more natural, I guess, and that kind of like played into what the song is and like how easy it is to listen. In this, it doesn't feel easy to listen to. It does feel like they're struggling with English, and that's different than having an accent, I suppose. It just feels awkward. And this doesn't mean like they're not incredible for like even singing in English in the first place, or in Japanese. Like, you know, that's very impressive in the first place, and I won't discount that at all. But it just doesn't sound good in this one. Why doesn't it sound good? Because the syllables are kind of blending in together, and it's hard to understand what they're saying. And like, I say this as someone who already struggles to understand a lot of English lyrics, right? So this was like especially hard for me to understand, which kind of is the whole point of making songs in English, right? I don't mean this at all as like an expectation that, like an over expectation that they should meet, you know, in the sense of like, should they be fluent in English? No, they shouldn't. Like that's not a requirement for them, and it's not something that we should expect from them. I just mean that it could have been done better, and I don't mean the pronunciation exactly, I mean the production again. I think that a few more takes, like it doesn't matter if the word wasn't exactly pronounced right, but if it was just worked on a little bit more so that it sounded better in the song, it would have worked. And like, I know I'm not using technical terms, and I know that if Elliot ever hears it, which I very much doubt he will, he would say that this is my opinion, it sounds bad to me. Yes, it sounds bad to me, but I'm not the only one. I've had conversations with other fans who just don't want to put all of their opinions in the video. They're all saying kind of the same thing. It's just like, this doesn't sound pleasant. And I don't think that's exactly because they're not native English speakers. I think that's a factor in how the song was mixed and how it was recorded. I think that was one of the factors that made this, as a finished product, feel kind of awkward and not worked on enough. It's just... This makes me feel a little bit how I feel about the Wings shorts. The Wings shorts are great, the short films. They're great, but then every time I listen to them, then it's RM saying realms instead of realms, and it's like, I get that you're not a native English speaker, I'm not either, but like, doesn't it make sense to run it by someone who does speak English? It's just, I don't even know, I'm not trying to be rude, I'm really not. It's just, it feels like it lacked a couple of steps in the way. And like, if someone was singing in Spanish and they had like this kind of awkwardness to it, I would still think like, hey, thank you for trying, that's great. I'm not thankful for them to try in English, because like enough people try in English, you know? But it still feels like, well, yeah, it's just a few more takes could have been made. I don't expect them to be fluent, but yeah, you can work on it a little bit more. Again, like this can come from a place of like, yes, I'm both like a language professional, I suppose, and I teach languages, and like this is my thing, you know. This is where I live. This is where my mind goes to. So I am picking it apart, and perhaps I am too hung up on it. But it does feel like, well, if you could make Butter as good as Butter is, why does this sound like you know less English than Butter? I know that you know less English is like you can't pronounce the words as well as you did in Butter. I can see the point of that, like, oh, that's racist. I can see how that can be the conclusion of this argument, or like what people take out of this. That's not what I mean, and I'm not sure I'm explaining myself very well, but it doesn't feel polished. I guess that's what I'm getting at. Okay, so that was my whole point on pronunciation. Now, the last point that D'Angelo touched on was the video. I didn't like the video. Some of the reasons that I have are very much like my personal take on it, like my personal preferences, I suppose, and others are like actual like creative choices that I just didn't agree with. My like really subjective stuff is like, I don't like the aesthetic. I think it's too American. It's too like US American. So yeah, I didn't like that. Just don't. But like they can do whatever, you know. Just I know that they do like the US, but yeah, like it is a very American aesthetic, and it felt kind of not innovative enough on it. So that's a little bit less of my personal hang-ups with the US. It was more just like, yes, it's a cowboy thing. Can we just go a little bit further than that? You know, like I feel like, especially BTS with their aesthetics, like even like the picture I'm looking at right now, you can like that photo shoot is a masterpiece, and like the whole styling is new. There's some gender bending. It's great. There's so many elements of that photo shoot that I could speak about that photo shoot for 10 years and not get bored. I didn't feel like there was that much creative styling in this. I didn't feel like it was as interesting. There was no elements that made me like, ooh, okay, that's a choice. So maybe I'm missing something. Maybe it's just because I don't like that particular aesthetic. But yeah, it didn't feel that creative on that side. Now, that's not my only issue with the video. I also thought that because the messaging of the song felt kind of flat to me and it felt kind of shallow to me, then all of the inclusion that was happening in the video that I really liked, I thought it was really cool that they had like sign language, and there was so much diversity presented there. But because the song itself felt kind of shallow to me, then kind of repercuted on that for me a bit. Like it felt Starbucks putting up rainbow flags, if you know what I mean. I wasn't a fan of that because it didn't feel like it was like going anywhere. It didn't feel like it was like actually an inclusionary message. It was more like showing an inclusionary message, which I don't think they were doing. Like I know them well enough to know that they are sincere in it, and that absolutely at no point they would like be into like tokenism and stuff like that. It's just that if I didn't know anything about BTS and I heard this song and saw the video that accompanied it, I would have been very, very skeptical of the messaging. I would have been like, well, no. It's not that I don't think it was genuine, I just think it didn't look genuine. Like the whole video felt like a One Direction video. And a lot of people, if they hear this, if anyone ever hears this, I would get offended at that. But I was a Directioner, how much I despise that word when One Direction were around. And like, One Direction kind of had this kind of creative progression where the first albums were very much dictated to them and they didn't have a lot of creative freedom. And then little by little, as they gained like more negotiating power, then they started making better music and better videos. But in particular, better music. Their videos never really got to a point where I was like, oh, that was very good. That was a very creative video. BTS has like 1 million of them. But this felt like a normal music video. It felt just like a music video. And that's just not what I expect from BTS. I expected something to happen, something new, something interesting, and it didn't. And now we get to the mask thing. Actually, the whole message of both the song and the video, which is like, this is a COVID song, right? This is very much a COVID song. This is like, oh, in the year 2022, we're all going to be able to take our masks off and we're going to be able to dance. I don't have an issue with that message by itself. I do think that at this point in time it is a bit tone deaf. I didn't appreciate the message now. And I say this because as I am recording this, I think that the intensive care units in my city are at about 97 or 98% capacity. I think around 500 people died yesterday from COVID, and I guess it's just, sure, it's gonna be good in the future, but at the moment that's kind of not what I want to hear. It feels less compassionate than it is trying to be. Yeah, I just didn't like it. I don't necessarily agree with D'Angelo's point of like it kind of feels kind of anti-mask or whatever like politic thing is happening in the US and other places as well. I don't think there was confusion as to whether it was like an anti-mask propaganda or whatever. I don't think it was at all. It just feels like it wasn't nuanced enough. It wasn't compassionate enough for it to actually be uplifting. Like if I think about Life Goes On, Life Goes On for me was a very important song. Like the messaging in that, like that was actually uplifting for me. It was like, holy shit, this is hard, but we're gonna get through it, and it will be okay, and life will go on. I'm getting teary just talking about it. Like that's an actual compassionate message about living through what we've been living through. But Permission to Dance, ooh, it felt so icky. Just, I don't like it at all. Yeah, just like, yeah, let's take off our masks and be free. And I get that. I get the feeling of like taking off the mask when you come home and feeling like you can breathe again. But like a lot of people are not in that position at all yet, and it is hard to see that position from the moment that we're at in a lot of countries. And like BTS is a global group. I mean, obviously they're Korean, but like their music reaches everywhere. And just because in America and in Korea things are better now doesn't mean that everywhere else is as well. And so it just felt like the timing was just completely off for this particular message, and just because it was delivered in such a like shallow way in the lyrics, then the video just becomes even more jarring. So yeah, that's just, I wasn't okay with it. That is my very rambly, very long criticism of Permission to Dance, and I just want to say we could be a bit more receptive and a bit more kind to each other when we're talking about our liking or disliking a song. Like, you're very welcome to like it, that's not my issue. I don't take issue with people liking it, but I do think that there are legitimate reasons not to like it. Doesn't mean that everyone has to agree with those reasons. And I think that all criticism, and all art criticism in particular, does depend in a lot of ways on personal taste, right? Like, just because individual things don't break a song doesn't mean that those individual things can't be part of the factors that make a song not good. And this doesn't mean that I think that BTS's quality overall is dropping. Like, B is a magnificent album, and it doesn't mean that I think they're getting too westernized. Can we just please talk about like individuals? Can we talk people who have full opinions that are nuanced and that deserve to be looked at as that? There are legitimate arguments not to like the song that have nothing to do with racism, that have nothing to do with these ideas of authenticity, which I feel are very toxic, and are very toxic in art in particular. Like, so many Colombian artists in the world are like expected to be authentically Colombian, whatever that fucking means. Just because some of the arguments that like coexist with the criticism or bullshit doesn't mean that the criticism is bullshit. I'm gonna stop now because I've been talking for far too long. If you're listening, thank you. Hope you have a good day. I've never done this before. Anyway, bye. Enjoy BTS because BTS is awesome.